Hi everyone. It's another Beatles day today here. However, I just recently finished the Revolver album, which means, well, I asked Vlad, is this the next album coming up? And he said, no, it's a single. So, cheers to the Beatles single. Let's see what it is.
Paperback writer.
Okay, I love that one. I really like that one. There are some really specific things about it that stood out to me. I'll get into those eventually, but what a fun piece of music. Boy, I wasn't even thinking about who's singing what or anything. I have no clue because I wasn't paying attention to that. Obviously, the title must be Paperback Writer. Now as I'm thinking back, trying to recall what I just listened to, well, there's that great guitar riff, dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, which kind of reminded me of George Harrison's piece. Was this a George Harrison song? I'm not sure about that. It could be. But I wasn't listening to who's carrying the lead. I was enjoying all the mix of voices and everything. It could have been a Lennon piece. I don't think it was a McCartney piece. I'm going to just have to read because I'm not going to be able to guess this one. 65th in the 150 series. Genre is hard rock, power pop. A song written by John Lennon with McCartney lead vocal. No wonder I'm confused. Because it's not a McCartney style piece, but I wasn't, as I said, I wasn't paying attention to who's leading, but it didn't stand out as, yeah. That explains it. I feel slightly vindicated. This is not on Revolver, but on a single released in the same year, 1966. The single went to the #1 spot in the United States, United Kingdom, Ireland, West Germany, Australia, New Zealand, and Norway. On the US Billboard Hot 100, the song was at #1 for 2 consecutive weeks. We always tried to do something different, related McCartney back in 1966. The idea is a bit different. Years ago, my Auntie Lil said to me, "Why do you always write songs about love all the time? Can't you ever write about a horse or the Summit Conference or something interesting?" So I thought, all right, Auntie Lil. And recently, we've not been writing all our songs about love. That made me think when I was listening to the second verse. I guess I have the lyrics here. No, the third verse. It's 1,000 pages, give or take a few. I'll be writing more in a week or two. I can make it longer if you like the style. I can change it around. And I want to be a paperback writer. I was thinking, is this kind of the story of the Beatles? I can make the song longer. I can make it shorter. I can switch it up a bit. I can do this. I can do that. I'm perfectly capable. I can turn out anything you want to hear. In his 2021 book, The Lyrics, Paul adds, "When I was younger, I used to go to Philip's Son and Nephew, our local bookstore in Liverpool. The London bookshops were almost as good as the guitar shops. There was so much to discover inside." Sounds like he shares my love of reading. "I had this idea of being an aspiring writer, and I imagined writing a letter to the publishing company to extol my own virtues and try to sell myself." That's why the song starts, "Dear Sir or Madam." That was the way you opened letters then. I set that to music. As for songwriting credits, John comments in his 1972 Hit Parader interview, "I think I might have helped with some of the lyrics. Yes, I did, but it was mainly Paul's tune." While Paul may not remember it quite this way, as detailed above, he seems to indicate that John definitely played a part, if not lyrically, then melodically, saying, "We went upstairs and put the melody to it. John and I sat down and finished it all up." So a real team effort, it sounds like. Well, let's go back through and I'll try to point out some of the things that really stood out to me on that first listen that made me love it right away.
Paperback writer.
I like that introduction, and I like the way they give the impression that it's a sort of buoyant, free, if it weren't in 4/time, it would almost feel like a waltz, but it's in 4/time, so it avoids that waltz feel, but it's the same sort of lift that comes, and it has to do with how they're entering their pitches and moving through the notes. And then, just as you begin to feel like, it's going to blossom, bong, here comes the instruments.
Paperback writer.
But this wonderful guitar riff, there was something incredibly similar that I commented on in I Want to Tell You. And I'd have to go back and listen to that one again if I wanted to compare the two. But I feel like, I don't know if these were done in close proximity to each other, or if this is becoming one of Harrison's signature riff styles, but it's that sort of sawtoothed, craggy-edged sound, da 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 dum, ba bum, ba bum, ba bum, ba bum, bouncing back and forth. It has an incredible amount of energy in this song. In I Want to Tell You, it was done slightly different, and it ended up giving a more dissonant, edgy quality. Here, it just kicks us into high gear. Just as we've been enjoying this free, easy a cappella introduction with all the layers of harmonies coming and going. And this jumps in so quickly, drums and guitar. And as I said, it feels like we still have their voices ringing in our ears, but we have been kicked into high gear, and now it's just the echo in our memory of what we heard in the introduction. Really, really a lot of fun.
Paperback writer.
Okay, now, this melody, it's been a while since I listened to one of their pieces that has this sort of constant speaking out in high speed, but I guess I have heard a couple of the Beatles songs, but it's been so long I can't recall which ones they are. But dear sir or madam, will you read my book? It took me years to write. Will you take a look? Based on a novel by a man named Lear. I mean, it just has a really nice rhythmic travel to it, I'll say. It, in a way, it feels kind of like some of the other non-Beatles rock music I've listened to that kind of falls under traveling songs, driving songs. It carries us along and keeps us rolling down the road. And this whole piece has that sort of energy of let's move, let's move, let's move, let's move. Interesting, since it seems that this paperback writer is out of a job. He's wishing to get things rolling here, it sounds like. I also like the way that the bass is timed. The bass entrance is timed. Oops, that's not the bass. Hold on. Let's make sure that I mark the bass itself. Here we go. That's the bass. I like the way it's timed to enter with the voice. It seems to add an extra dimension when the voice comes in. We've had the guitar and the drums just pushing us along, and then here comes the bass. Dum, bum, 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 and down into the deep tone. Just as the voice comes in with this sort of patter rhythm that makes us want to just move. There's a sense of excitement to it. Isn't that such a great shift? We are back into the same sort of feel that we had at the beginning, but it feels so. In fact, let me just jump and listen and compare.
Paperback writer.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same, but because we've been through 2 whole verses of this sort of traveling rhythm, it feels so fresh to return to this paperback writer with the flair and personality. You know, there are things about this song that remind me of the series I did, the Queen 50 series, and listening to the way Queen added such a flair and style to rock music in general. Sort of just immerse yourself and feel the motion and the energy within each note and go where it goes. It feels like the Beatles are doing this a bit here. We get this rhythm and we're just going with the rhythm and we're moving along with it. And the bass and the voice and the guitar and the drums, everything just piles in to create this great feel. And then they pull us out of that, they yank us out of that and send us another direction. Paperback writer. And you feel yourself pulled into this new feel. Well, actually, it's the first thing we felt when we heard this song. But coming after this episode of 2 verses, it feels like such a new experience all over again. Just listen to this transition. It's so nice. And whatever they did with the sound there to get that echoing at the end, paperback writer, and then it echoes and kind of becomes a little bit mirage-like. It's kind of what we have in our minds at the end of the introduction that doesn't really exist in the song. Paperback writer. They could have had the echo going on there but instead that's when the energetic rock kicks in. And I like the fact that now they actually do have that sort of echo and reverb included in a place where we didn't actually expect it, but it works so well. I love it. I like these extra voices thrown in the back here that, well, we have this paperback writer intro and interlude, whatever you want to call it here, with the slow, buoyant feel. And that is where we kind of hear the polyphonic, multi-voiced sound in the piece. And that's what caught my ears. That's why I wasn't really paying attention to who's singing whom. I was just like, oh, I love all those voices. This here. But now this hard rock section returns. And they've kept a little bit of that sort of polyphonic quality in a nice way. If we listen to this, you hear them, a couple voices singing, and I'm not going to try to identify who's singing whom. Who's singing what, but isn't that nice? See, I guess it's this line right here that is being sung, and it's written in this score with but somehow it sounds to me like they're singing something else. Let's listen to this again with a bit more attention. You hear what they're singing. Okay, I get it now. Frejaka. Isn't that what they're singing? Tell me I'm right. Or wrong. I love Ringo's drum fills there. Okay, what fun. Is that just a bit of nonsense joke? Or is this somehow tying in with the whole paperback writer? I'm just going to recycle. I mean, he says he's got this thing that's going to make a lot of money, but, basically paperback writers, they just recycle the same old formats every time, right? I have no idea. But there we have another fun little detail. Okay, let's go back before this drum fill. It was a fun one. And it's the same paperback writer. Frejaka. So probably they were just fooling around and saying, this is the same little tune. Yes, I like that song. Aside from these wonderful little details that I was picking up and enjoying so much, one of the things that attracts me to this piece is the way in which there's such clarity, and each part has such ownership of its part. The guitar, an authoritative, walk into the room and change the mood of the room riff, coming out so great and strong. The drums. This is one of those pieces where Ringo is doing far more than just keeping the beat and holding everybody together. It feels like he is just having fun there, and I enjoy it. I like the variety that is coming out of the drums. I like the balance of it. The bass, lively, keeping us on our toes and adding its own quality to the piece. The voices, and not just a voice, the voices, plural, the part writing, the harmonizing. Every single element feels like it's in top form, and they've managed to strike that happy balance between complexity and clarity. So we can enjoy every single one of these on its own, for its own sake. At the same time, it all comes together and it doesn't sound too much. It's not too chaotic. It's not anything that feels like you have to wade through a marsh to get to what you're after. It picks you up and carries you along just because it's so great. And on top of that, each section of the piece, the paperback writer intro, interlude, outro section, it has its own, again, it owns its style. The stylistic elements, the feel, the mood of it, paperback writer, and so on. And then the rocky section. Also, it owns its everything about it. It just gets up and walks. And that is what makes this piece feel so good and so attractive. And yet when you dig in, you find things that could be pulled apart, layer upon layer upon layer. I didn't dig into this riff because I kind of did something similar with I Want to Tell You. And I don't want to be redundant, but if you have listened to that one and then you listen to this one, you can probably start to appreciate some of the elements that are present here as well. And as I said, it's not an exact repeat. I don't know which one came first, but they're both great. And it works so well here, along with everything else. Well, no wonder it was such a hit. Even I like it. So, there we go. We have completed Revolver, and now this single from the same period, which means coming up is going to be a new album. Let's see what comes next. I'll see you soon.